Hi. Is this thing on?
Give it a second.
97.
Okay.
Oh, I won't? Okay. Um,
Oh.
so nobody else hears it either?
Oh,
Oh, okay, it's the
I get it. It's
stream,
not
I
over
see.
here.
All right, so I guess I'll just, can you all hear me? Okay. Thank you all for coming. As we emailed the membership, Councilman Smith is going to be our speaker for he let us know that he's going to be arriving around 7:30, and I think we emailed the membership that earlier this week or the end of last week. What I thought that we could do is see, number one, if are there any, other questions. We usually have a question period at the end of our meetings, maybe do that at the beginning. And then and also, usually we do have a PCRC or police update, but Jonathan, you said it was just a big old party this past week? Nothing to report?
Party for that, and then they gave awards to some of the officers, 4 officers.
Okay.
It was about promotion to the end of the year. So, and they will not have a January meeting.
They won't.
They
Oh,
will not have a January meeting. They started up in February. So
okay.
but they'll have that other meeting with the association in January.
Right. And as we mentioned last time, the police are no longer coming to individual association meetings. I guess there were staffing issues and they just weren't able to, I guess, have enough coverage. So there's going to be a community meeting where all members of the community are invited to come. And that's going to be starting in January, and then it's
21st
the
at 5:30.
at 5:30. So, but it's,
At the Northern District.
so I think it's like monthly, the third
Yeah.
Thursday? Tuesday? Third Tuesday, okay. So, as most of you know, we used to have a member of the police force come in and give us a briefing, but Jonathan actually agreed to still attend, and then he will report back to the membership at the following LSIA meeting. So are there any questions, or Susie, do you have any like maglev updates or anything?
And with the BWI roundtable, I'm on that too.
So you stay there.
With the MagLab, everything is still on hold. But with the new administration coming in, we will be talking to them. And with the BWI roundtable, they have implemented the new system, but we're not meeting. I didn't attend that meeting for health reasons, but Dan filled me in. We're probably not going to have another meeting until January or February to see how it's going. So, with the planes getting up higher, faster, and spreading out, basically going back to what it was before the next gen system, so that like Howard County's been having a lot of problem with noise and vibrations and everything, and some of Anne Arundel County has too. So they've implemented the system. They didn't do it until September, so now they want to evaluate it and see where they can make improvements and things like that. Plus, we're evaluating it too from the members that are on the BWI roundtable. So myself or Dan will keep you updated on both, because we're both MCRT board members and BWI roundtable. So we'll let you know. Okay.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything questions or?
I like this question. Is the property been sold on Andover Road at the red light to expansion Road to a contractor? That parcel that was for sale where the tower is.
Oh, on Andover and Can't Meet. So are you talking about the part where the parcel that's closest to Lindale as opposed to across the street where we can ask Councilman Smith to verify this, but what he's told me is that that was taken off the table as far as the changing or upzoning, so that the zoning will remain as it is. I believe it's residential, like, so and they wanted, or the owner wanted to change it to W1 to basically make it, to extend the parking lot, or maybe put another parking lot next to the existing parking lot. But we did, go to him and tell him that we were opposed to that. And he said that that would be, I think it might still be in the plan, meaning recommended by the OPZ, or yeah. But that we shouldn't be concerned about it because it has to be approved by the council.
I think I'd like to make it duly noted that if it ever comes back, that the organization goes to Pete or whoever it is and fights for greenery put around with leaving cypresses or anything to give us that greenery.
That buffer.
Yeah, that proper look going down the road, that helps the community stay green versus chain link fence.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, the more greenery we can have, the better.
We can keep, because they don't want to be high density.
No, you're right. Okay.
Maps of that area, you could see that there's the tree lines and the buffer, and if we start losing that buffer, that's a sound for us. That's a sound buffer for the airport too. So, and you had that little piece of land taken out of there, would put a parking lot in it. It just opens that corridor for sound to go through it. So we need to try to fight for that a little bit more along that whole area, maintain it.
We hear the tuggers on the jets down, and then they're waiting to take off and building the Europeans up. We kind of hear that, over there in Sycamore.
I'm on Sycamore too. I don't know if
I hear it. I know the schedule.
Is it during the day, like during the?
Yeah. Yes, and then it's in the morning. Like I know what time they start up, like around 4 or 5 in the morning. So yeah, I do. Yeah.
Why don't you wave walking the dog?
Yeah, now the leaves are off, and then you get that,
Exactly.
it starts getting louder. So, and
Right.
especially the cold mornings, that sound travels, and it just
Travel very.
drives right across our neighborhood. So,
Yeah, so that particular parcel apparently is court, and again, we can verify that with the councilman when he gets here, but that sounded to me like it was somewhat low-hanging fruit as far as something that he would be able to kind of preserve for the community. I mean, of course, there are other zoning changes and the planned land use change for the commercial area that would potentially, open it up for mixed use designation and, potentially development. He'll talk a little bit about that. And then also there's been some recent legislation that's being considered that he is in a better position to discuss, but that changes the mixed use designations so that they're more focused on scale rather than the actual use. He can probably explain it better than I can. But that's something that's before the county council as well. And it also, I believe, one major part of that legislation is that if an area is designated as mixed use with their planned land use, which is the change that they're trying to make to the commercial area, then the legislation would allow for the zoning. And as far as the difference between plan land use and zoning, there is a difference when the land use kind of comes before the zoning. The zoning wouldn't change with this current Region 1 plan, but if the land use does, then the zoning could be changed in the future, not through the, comprehensive planning process and not through what they call the piecemeal process, but it would be an administrative change. So it can go from basically, I guess, a request from the owner to the Office of,
And change it.
right. So that is actually a pretty significant change, and the legislation hasn't been voted on yet, but there have been various hearings, and I'm not entirely sure. And then it does seem to change periodically to kind of change the heights of the buildings for various mixed use designations. But I think the next hearing on that is the 18th of December. So I do want to also have him address that, because I'm not actually sure of where he stands on that particular legislation.
Two other things. On a lighter note, concern note, on PBS, I saw a real good program about the young lady that spoke to us that runs the horse farm. And that was PBS on therapy for children, challenged individuals. And they gave all the ranches that she controls. And it mentioned our little hamlet here in Staples.
That's great.
Where they perform and all that. And the other disturbing thing was on the news, 12 o'clock, I said our executive had his going forward 2025 budget and what he wanted to do put forward. And he was very concerned that the housing shortage in our county should be brought up.
No.
ASAP. And I want, they said you can view the whole speech and everything, but if anybody knows how I can see it or which channel, where to go, I'd love to go to the library or whatever. But I was disturbed with that statement, that Stancy statement.
I mean, I think it's not uncommon. And I mean, I also think here, and not to say that, in other people's backyard, but not in ours, I feel that, our proximity to the airport and the pollutants and, both air and, I mean, it seems to be that maybe, increasing density in other places, I'm not saying that it's a terrible thing all around. I don't think it makes sense here.
What this gentleman referred to is I saw Stuart Pittman on television last night, and he said that zoning restrictions were challenged and are going to be changed. By that he means that low-income housing is they're attempting to develop that in North Anne Arundel County of Weaver. Now, I've been here 20 years. I lived off Crosby Boulevard. I know Lexington. I was on the state police when the housing development over there was a field. Anyway, what I'm saying is that where would they, possibly put low-income housing? Not that I'm opposed to it, but where? They'd have to tear, somebody said they might tear the shopping center down, because that's private property. The young lady that owned that, her father passed away, he owned that shopping center. That's why those houses over there, 13 of them off of Bedford Avenue, sold for $550,000.
Well, the last
Okay,
one
this
sold
community-
for like 680,
You can't buy a house, you can't buy a house.
and they're on a tenth of an acre.
Okay,
For less than
So for
$450,000.
clarification for those houses, for the Shipley Oaks, I believe it was the family who owned that property, but to play fair, they held out for a good deal where you would get the single family homes.
Right.
And so they didn't have to do that, because they could have just come with the first offer and we would have ended up having apartments. But because, so to their credit, they held out for those houses,
Yeah,
so
because what
up
happened
the
was,
value.
the father was gonna build houses. The son was gonna do townhouses. And Kenny Glendenning and myself and all, we went to him and asked him to keep it the way his father did at houses. So he held out and everything, and he finally did it, just house. We said we didn't want townhouses, so it wasn't consistent with the neighborhood.
He actually started out with 10 townhouses. I sat on that when it was all
Right.
Yeah,
done.
it was, yeah, he had a
And the
townhouse.
county was the one that suggested to him they put townhomes in, and he had it all set out,
Right.
all laid out
Right,
for townhomes until LSIA came back
Right.
and said,
yeah,
no, it's not consistent with
Exactly.
the community. And
Exactly.
he was a very nice gentleman,
mhm,
and he did change it, and that was all before he died.
right,
But most of them are over 600, and yeah.
yeah, they are.
Based on his statement though about housing shortage and Section 8, I was at a Christmas party and somebody said, Georgie, keep your eye on Hammond's Lane, the landfill, because they're talking like 3-phase different things to be done by your house, whatever. And he said that keep your eye on it because it might be whatever they create, townhouse or whatever. He said 20% of that would be Section 8 based on a new law.
I don't think it's Section 8. It's not the same thing as Section 8. I think it's
Affordable housing.
right. So I mean, but it's also not. It's not just renting. It's also buying homes. And we could certainly ask the councilman, but my understanding, I did read the legislation, was that it was more akin to like FHA. For basically you make $80,000 a year because, and I understand how a lot of people feel about, increasing. But the truth is that housing is so expensive now that, younger people just can't afford a home. And I think in some ways that's what and I'm not saying whether anything about the county executive, good or bad, but I think that's one of the issues that people are trying to address with, this push to increase. Well, number one, they probably feel like, yeah, you need to actually increase the house stock, right? So that you have more houses, and then that'll bring prices down. But then also just implementing a program like the one that it passed, and it was I think in October that law passed, but that established this program. And again, the councilman could talk more about it, but it did sound like it was more about not really like Section 8, but trying to make housing more accessible. And that's what it's called, accessible housing.
When they do that though, they have, what about the infrastructure to support it?
Well, and no, that's a very good,
Well,
very good
that's
question.
when Stuart Pittman makes that he wants to put the housing here. He's got to pony up the schools, and he's got to pony up all the other things that go along. Unless the development come in and they do their thing, and then all of a sudden now it's the onus of the county to upgrade the schools.
Yeah.
You got to do there's the cart. You get the cart before the horse or whatever.
And
You
that's
just got to
what's
get the plan. It's smart plan.
Exactly,
And they're forgetting about that. All they're thinking about is getting the revenue started.
exactly,
Give
but
the
you gotta have the
developers the
infrastructure
chance
to
to get the
support it.
land and do what they need to do. Build the houses, get the tax base going, and that'll then support more schools.
There's no property around here to do what you're saying. There is property off of Nursery Road. If you're going eastbound, on the right, there's nothing but fields. That's down from Panera.
Yeah, but I think in
There's
that
no place
commercial
around here
property,
to make it develop. Where?
Is it near the river though?
Well, you're gonna have water issues. You're gonna have water, you're gonna have a lot of land use issues, but where it is. I see some of these areas, they're gonna start looking at, you've got office parks around here that are not being used. I'm waiting to start seeing that, is where you're gonna
Aviation
see.
Boulevard.
You've got the whole, you got,
in the
West Nursery over
BWI,
here.
yeah,
and a
BWI.
lot of developers are starting to look at their own properties and say, I got a vacant building here, commercial building, not doing anything. I could demo the building, turn it around, and we have apartments over there now, right?
Yeah.
They put that
Well,
in big
because the
fields.
one building next to the courthouse, it never has been occupied, it's been sitting there at least 5 years.
Well, I think that's what you're gonna find with a lot of developers.
But I
Start
think
looking
they
at the
did that
property.
as a tax write-off too.
Yeah.
I mean, there are possible places to put new housing. I mean, right here in this, not right here, not in this particular, I mean, Linthicum's already pretty well developed, right? But but when you look at the county in general, and Susie, what you mentioned about, North versus South County should probably be looked at too, because it does often seem that North County doesn't, get the same consideration as South County does.
Well, as far as the 2040 plan, though, I mean, Northern and Roanoke County has been slated for the transit-oriented development because we have the light rail. So good or bad, the light rail is here to stay.
Well, that was a
The
federal.
southern, they are trying to designate that more for farming. That's what I kind of looked at. It was like, north, south, east, and west, and it looked like, from what I, perused over, it looked like the southern, they're actually trying to keep more of the farming areas, so.
Yeah, but when the farmers sell out, developers buy them.
Well, hopefully they will work forward. All right.
Yes, which one is Eagle or the
That's yours. We have a board member who's, when you're ready for questions, we have a board member who's going around the bit steps of.
I did theater in high school, so I remember writing body mics.
So for like, is this that?
Thank you very much for coming.
Yes.
And we've been talking a little bit about kind of the issues that have come up with the foundation, and also with the development plan, and
Over here on Nursery, you can't meet in Andover, that property.
the property that we've talked about, the
The land that they want, so it's a W1.
Want to keep it R5 on the corner right there, correct? Yes, which I have said that is my intent to keep that the same designation that it is right now, which is R5, I believe. There is a proposal from the county to make it W1, similar to the adjacent southern portion of it. I think it's a parking surface area. And so I know from listening to the leadership here, so I'll start off by saying, being in the Marines, I certainly know where I get my orders from. And so I have every intention of following suit with the leadership in this organization when it comes to the parcels here and particularly in Linthicum. We've had at least 2 meetings, I believe, maybe. Yeah. And so just to make sure, and just so you're aware, the land itself or the Region 1 plan is not actually in my possession yet. My goal was to make sure that before it even comes to me, that those changes that they are proposing have been, one, vetted by you all, and there's a consensus amongst this group so that we can make decisions about what the county should recommend. And even if they sent it to me still with it as W1, I'm going to put in a bill or amendment to change it back to R5. So, and I'm conveying all of those thoughts to the planning and zoning team as well, so they're very aware of what's going on. So I will start off by saying my name is Pete Smith. I am the councilman for District 1 here in Anne Arundel County, off and on, I guess since at least 2012, but I came back in 22, and I'm glad because the region plan is a once in a 10-year process that is so important for each and every one of you in this room, because what that land is designated as has the ability to impact you all in the future. And so I understand how important it is to keep that. So if you haven't been involved with the Region 1 team and plan, you should. The website is very easy to maneuver. You can look up a map and bring up a map, and it actually shows you parcel by parcel. So there's that. I have been meeting with every single organization I could, North Linthicum Improvement Association. I met with Pumphrey's here the other day. There's at least 2 organizations that I met with in Brooklyn Park, and another one that was in Glen Burnie. So I have every intention of making sure that at least the organizations and the communities are aware of this particular process because of the impacts that it has with you and your potential property as well as your neighborhood. I do understand that Linthicum's desire is to remain a suburban, single-family, quaint community, the same community that it is right now. And I have no desire to change that. So we can, nothing I'm going to do to Linthicum is going to change the dynamics of that area, which is why when we go to bill, there's a couple bills that I think you all should be aware of as well. One of those is 7524. That bill is a mixed use bill. There are roughly 25 if all of the planning and region teams pass their proposals. Currently there are 11. If the other regions pass there'll be 25. But of that 25, 11 of them are in District 1. Of the 11 that are currently in place, 6 of them are in District 1. And so what the region mixed use bill does, 7524, so please pay attention to it. It redefines what mixed use developments are. Right now there are 4. It expands that to 5, but it also increases some of the density in it. Now I'm not necessarily opposed to mixed use, and I'm not opposed to mixed use in certain areas. But what this bill does and what it says is if we as a community within the Region 1 plan, which we're going through right now, say that there is a particular area that is ideal for a mixed use component, even if we don't pass the land use assignment for it in the land use bill, at some point down the road, when that landowner desires to develop something, they can petition to have their community or that mixed use area designated as one of those 5 future mixed use components. So with the bill is that it doesn't come back to the council to have what that mixed use be or designation should be. So I am not a fan of that. And I've made the administration known of that. They are aware. So I definitely have heartburn over 7524 because it takes a process, just like the zoning process that we're going through now. You all are heavily involved in it. And the council also has a say in that process. But when it comes to this, we do not. And that part is where I'm not necessarily comfortable with turning over that ability and legislating that ability over to the planning or zoning team to make that designation. Now, we passed some amendments. They were trying to get me closer to being on board with the bill, and I've been very transparent on how I feel about this piece of legislation, not only in the council, but with the administration as well. So they know exactly how I feel about it. If you have comments about it, please let me know. I'll certainly take any feedback that I can when it comes to it. But I do think from a process standpoint, I would prefer to have or not even just me, any council member who's sitting in this seat, because we represent you. And so we have the ability to leverage our capacity as that council member to identify what that component should be. And the fact that we don't have that with this bill is what gives me heartburn. And so that I am definitely not 100% on board with 7524. So if you have questions about that, I would certainly be open to answering them. So any questions on 75, specifically 7524, the mixed use bill? Yes.
Just as far as other members of the council, I assume you've taken their temperature on obviously somebody, wants the administrative zoning to go through. Do you get a sense that you have enough backing to kind of,
So
take
interesting.
that out?
It's interesting that you mentioned that. So I have communicated with not all the members on the county council. I certainly have an idea who is for the bill and who isn't. I think with this last effort by the administration to provide some remedies that they believed would at least get me closer to a yes, I'm not sure it did that. In fact, I'm pretty sure it didn't do that. But I do want to work with the administration. I really am a fan of collaborating and working together. But at the same time, I feel like it's a responsibility of ours. You all elected me and the other districts in this county elected their representatives to have a say in that process. And in my opinion, it's almost a modified comp rezoning. It's like a rezoning. So why should we not be involved in that process? And so I'm not a fan of. And so we'll see how those votes play out here in the coming weeks. I would encourage you to communicate with the rest of the council about how you feel about 7524. Please read it. Don't just take my opinion about it. Read it and you'll see some of the additional uses and things like that. Now, as I mentioned before, there are some spaces in the county and District 1 that I'm actually okay with a mixed-use development. One of those is right there at the intersection of 100 and Arundel Mills Boulevard. There's a church over there. It is ideal for mixed use. It's just south of, is that south? I think it's just south of the, well, you know where Arundel Mills, you all know where Arundel Mills Boulevard is in 100. So right at that intersection is a parcel that would be ideal for a mixed use development. You have a large mall, large commercial areas that are right there. And it's not a lot of residential area in that corner. It's where the Coca-Cola factory is. If you make a left on, is that 176? As you go underneath 100, make that left. In my mind, it feels like it's an ideal place. So I've been sort of lobbying to have that amended. So that's where we would put a mixed use potential development to satisfy the housing issue. So now I'll switch from 7624 to 7224, which was passed here previously. So 70 which was the housing bill that was passed by the council. I did vote for that bill. Does anyone know what I'm referencing, what I'm referring to? Is it 7224? Yeah, 7224. It is a housing for all. I think that was the name of the legislation. Last November-ish timeframe, we had attempted to pass a MPDU bill. MPDU is a moderately priced dwelling unit. The whole purpose of MPDUs is that when developments are built, the developers have to build a percentage of that development that is geared towards an average median income that is less than what sort of the higher end earners of the county earn. So we're particularly looking for earners in the range of $50,000 to $90,000, somewhere in that range, which was the area median income that we were shooting for. And so I am on board with MPDUs of requiring those to be built when developments are built. The problem, so last year that bill didn't pass. It didn't receive the amount of votes. And so this year, a similar bill came up that did have MPDUs embedded in it. And the reason I voted for that bill is because it had those MPDUs. The problem with the bill, though, however, it did additional things. It reduced some of the setbacks. It opened up some other areas potentially for development in other areas, in the critical areas. So I was stuck in a conundrum where if I failed, now this bill doesn't take effect for another like 8 months. So I knew in my head, if there were issues with the bill, I had plenty of time to go back and correct those errors in the bill. Not errors, they were intentional by the sponsor of the bill. We are prohibited from meeting outside of council meetings with more than 3 council members. So there were 3 council members who had worked on the bill last year who wanted to work on this bill because they were part of that coalition that put together the bill last year. So the county executive wanted the same people so that if some of them felt like they were losing pieces of what they were trying to do, he can sort of have that negotiation with them. So I get parts of that. However, it did present a situation where I didn't agree to some of those terms that were in this expanded version of the bill, where some of the critical areas, some of the GAN or environmentalists who were not really happy with the bill, they wanted us to amend it. What I was afraid of was that the bill would fail and we would lose the MPDU piece of it. So I voted for the bill to lock in the MPDU, knowing that I would have this opportunity to modify with a future bill other provisions of that bill, which will happen because they've already been meeting. After we voted on the bill, there was a comment on the council as well as an audience from the county executive who agreed to meet with the environmentalists to actually address some of those concerns that they have with the bill. That 100% is and will happen. I've met with the GAN community a number of times over the last few months. as well as Matt. He's one of the Sierra Club, maybe Sierra Club, one of the other groups that he's a part of. So you will see another piece of legislation that is aimed at remediating some of those provisions that they had put in the previous bill, so that we can protect some of those critical area pieces, as well as maybe retain some of the setbacks in those areas that are not that don't have MPDU developments. So I thought, and what I wanted out of the bill was just an MPDU bill to talk about developments. But what transpired out of the bill was there was an MPDU piece put in, but for those developments that are not MPDUs, they open it up some of the setbacks and increased density, things like that, which are not MPDU related. Now, I'm not saying they're wrong for wanting to do that. I'm saying I don't agree with it. And so I will certainly make an effort to address some of those issues that exist with 7224 before it goes into place here in the coming months. They've already met twice, and so now there's going to be a meeting here in the next probably 30 days with some of the administration staff as well as my team, so that we start crafting, well, what are those provisions that we're going to scale back, not the MPDU pieces of it, the non-MPDU construction elements that they enhance. Now, the sponsors will say housing is an issue for all individuals, for all layers up and down the scale. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think housing is an issue for those who have set incomes. There are a lot of people, if you're in a market to buy $1 million home, housing is not an issue for you. You can find a home if you're in a market to buy $1 million home, in my opinion, especially here in Anne Arundel County. But if you're in a market to buy a home and you need a house that's under $300,000, then housing is an issue for you. And so that's my opinion on that piece of legislation. It's not that I think that they are evil people or wrong or any of that stuff. I just have a different opinion, and I will certainly put my opinion in legislation, and we'll see what happens with the rest of the council and how they vote with it. I would surmise that there is some council members who would like to see some of those non-MPDU development pieces scaled back so that those other areas of the county aren't impacted by the additional development. It just opens up. Now, some will say that they still have to meet these other provisions because when they request a building or a project, they still have to go through the planning process. My thing is, I don't even want it to be a discussion when it comes to some of these critical areas. I don't even want the opportunity for some of these sensitive areas to be developed on because they can meet certain thresholds. They can, pay instead of the specimen tree, they can pay to, $10,000 to remove it or whatever the case. I don't even want the door to be open for some of those sensitive areas. And so that's where I kind of draw the line. I may be wrong or have a different opinion on that, but I'm at least conveying to you where I am on that particular piece when it comes to 7224. Any other questions about that particular bill or council in general? Yes, ma'am.
Critical area. Define the tree. Is there a critical area around here?
So, yeah. So any area along the waterways, you're certainly going to have critical areas. Well, you have streams and other buffers.
John, all these tributaries all have
Tributaries, they're all sensitive areas, and so I certainly want us to be mindful of how my focus from this administration and from the county is along with housing for that area, that 300K and under for a house. That's my idea. I really want us to focus on infrastructure. Like, that's where, in my mind, the biggest problem when it comes to not just housing, but critical infrastructure is such an important piece because our roads in some of these areas are just not used to the capacity and the level of development that we built, and we're sustaining it. We should be planning holistically at the whole county. We should, identify land as a county where developments could occur in the next 10 years, 15 years, 30 years. So I think that's done by the comprehensive rezoning. So as you're going through Region 1, you are showcasing and saying to the county, this land that is W1 or mixed use, developers will identify that when those bills pass and look at those parcels as areas to develop and build additional either commercial or residential areas. And so you all are a part of that process during the Region 1 plan by basically identifying the potential land that could be built upon. The second is the county executive, as they set the tone, at least from the department side of the house, on developments that are going through P&Z and they're putting in these packages. They can influence a lot of development that's going on in the areas. We're on the legislative side where it's, unless we're designating land open space, you're not going to build anything in that. Once we designate it as R1 or R5, if your neighbor decides to sell it, it's out of our control at that point. So if it's designated R5, your neighbor, which there are a bunch of this land right here, that's on a corner that they're proposing for W1, and you all want to see it retained as R5. If someone bought that, they could build 5 houses on an acre on that land. It's designated R5. There's nothing I can do at that point because we've already legislated it from a policy standpoint. And then if someone buys it and builds on it,
Critical, our historical area, does that protect us from rezoning the historical center of Linthicum?
so homes and or buildings that are have a historical, they have different protections from a state, certainly level, and in some cases federal level. But when it comes to rezoning, we can still rezone those areas. But if a development is proposed for that location, it would have to meet whatever the letter of the law for that designation that exists on it. So that designation may say you can't build on it, even though it's R5. Well, it's a provision that's assigned to that parcel. So it would, in some instances, it would protect it.
Pittman has 2 more years.
He has 2 more years. Yes.
Can he be reelected?
He cannot be real. It will be someone else in 2 years.
If Republicans came in, would that cut back on some of the big government? I think this is like an overreach of government. I'd like to see.
Well, I'm a motivated Democrat right here, and I am protecting your land.
Thank you.
I will tell you, my ex-wife was a Republican, and she is an awesome mother of my 2 kids, and so I learned a lot from her. And so I am one of those individuals where if you have a good idea, it doesn't matter if it's Republican or Democratic idea. We should be, like I mentioned to you, we should be protecting and investing in these areas so that you retain the quality of life that you have fostered here in this environment. So I have been a fan and said that to various communities, that it is my job to protect your quality of life, and that's what I'm aiming to do.
And before someone asks a question, if I could bring the mic over to them.
No, please.
Whoever wants to go next, right here.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about the. It's not working.
It's just streaming.
Okay,
Go ahead,
right.
go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about the websites themselves. Now, I'm a visually impaired person, and the website is almost inaccessible to me. And I'm assuming that there are other people with disabilities to whom the website is also inaccessible. And let me give you an example. I commented, as I wanted to do, on this a few months ago. However, I wasn't able to tell in my comment exactly what the parcel was that I was talking about because I couldn't find it. It was too small, and I couldn't get it on my PC or tablet big enough that I could talk about it. So I just said in my comment, here are the streets that I'm talking about. I'm visually impaired. I can't give you the parcel number. I hope you listen to me anyway. And I would like you folks to consider that because it's hard to talk about something you can't even read.
So I'll bring that back up to the planning and zoning folks. I would love if you can reach out to me because I'll get on Zoom with you and I can actually help you identify what that parcel number is. And then we can kind of walk through to make sure it's exactly what you're referring to. And then whatever concern you have with it, sort of annotate that and make sure they are aware of it. I'll certainly be aware of it during that call, but I will certainly do that.
You want me to try to bring up the plan online? It's going to take me a few minutes.
Yeah, so you want to do that while I continue to ask questions?
I
And
put in accounting,
okay.
teaching, and I have access to it.
You were in one of your discussions there talking about the planning of the county and the staging, things that you need infrastructure to happen. Region 1 and having zoning changed on some of the properties, give developers the opportunity to get them to start building homes. The question gets to be is when does the are there the timing of how does that allow the county to catch up? I mean,
So-
I'm back to smart.
Right.
It's when do you start building schools ahead of the schedule,
Right.
knowing that these areas are going to start growing? Or are you going to let them grow and then have to fix the problem?
So it's interesting. No. It makes complete sense. Unfortunately, like the census, like the census that happens every 10 years, comprehensive rezoning happens roughly every 10 years as well. There have been moments where it's been sooner, and there have been times when it's been later. But on average, somewhere between 8 and 10 years, it happens based off of the census, because when the census numbers are dropped, it realigns sort of congressional funding, and other things trigger off of that. So we're required to look at land every 10 years just to make sure we're meeting the needs of the communities and the folks who live in the county. So we can't avoid when it happens for the most part. We just know when it does happen, we, the county, have to be prepared to process and make sure everyone in the community is aware of what's going on when it comes to that. So there's that piece of it. But when it comes to the infrastructure piece, that comes down to tax dollars, right? That comes down to funding. And one of the things that, if you look back, I'm a data guy. So I've been in the Marines 27 years. So I was initially a Spanish linguist, believe it or not, even though all I know is mesa, la mesa. So table. And it was my first MOS. And then they made me a data guy. And so I wound up becoming like a 2651 before I got commissioned. There's a moral to this path that I'm telling you. I know it seems long-winded. So then they made me basically a signals guy, where we were setting up satellites and things like that. And so we had to crunch a lot of numbers. So I love numbers because numbers don't lie. They inform you, they give you a landscape, you interpret what you want from that, but it doesn't lie. The numbers, the data is what it is. On average, our economy here in Anne Arundel County grows around $80 million a year, somewhere in that ballpark. So from budget to budget, over the last 30 years, our budget has increased, besides the housing crash in 2008, 2009, roughly $80 million a year. So that's $80 million of new funding authority that we have to allocate towards additional things, right? We're not going to not spend what we spent last year. We're going to keep, more than likely, paying for police, paying for the teachers, paying for the recs and parks and all those things. I say that we have been a very lean government. I know that may not be the case, and some of y'all may not believe that, but I'll give you an example. You know how many citizens we have in Anne Arundel County? Roughly 600,000. Roughly 600,000. We're the fourth largest jurisdiction in the state of Maryland. Baltimore has like 580 now, or 590, but they're underneath it. They're the fifth largest. Howard County. Do you know how many citizens are in Howard County? 300,000. They are roughly half of our population. Half. I want to just show you this comparison. You know what our budget was that we passed in this past May or past June? It was $2.3 billion. You know how much Howard County's budget was? $2.3 billion. Their base, their community, 300,000, produces $2.3 billion in tax revenue for Howard County. So when people ask, most people say, well, Howard County is more expensive. It is. Your property taxes are more expensive. Just about everything is more expensive, housing, things like that, because the tax, either your income tax as well as your property taxes, are higher. They're maxed out. In Anne Arundel, we have 600,000, and we're producing the exact same. So I'm giving you that. That's a fact. You can go and not Google that. You can look at the county budget books that we voted on, and it will literally tell you that's what we pull from the citizens of Anne Arundel County via your housing, your property taxes, or your income taxes. That's huge. Half of their population is producing what's double ours is producing. If we went to their tax cap that they have in Howard County, and it's exact same in Prince George's, it's exact same in Baltimore City, it's exact same in Montgomery County, our budget that we would be voting on would be like $4.2 billion. We'd increase our budget by $1 billion plus, like $1.6 billion. You know what we could do with $1.6 billion? Now, I say that to say this. That's a lot of infrastructure, a lot of everything. But we have chosen as a society here in this county that our DNA, we have always been lean on taxes when it comes to other jurisdictions. I'm not saying that if you're in Texas, that you should compare us to Texas or Florida in it. Compare us apples to apples. When you compare us to other jurisdictions in this state, we are much more efficient when it comes to revenue generating than those other governments. So I will continue to be that lean sort of individual. You will not see me saying, let's raise our additional taxes, because I know my Republican friend over here would not be happy with me. Oh, my independent over here would not be happy with me. But there are some things that we have to do as a county government that do require us to generate revenue. And if there is an opportunity at some point that we are forced to do that because of law, you will certainly be made aware of that. But I will hold the line when it comes to taxes here in Anne Arundel County. You publicly, on the camera, will hold the line, and we will not be sort of aggressively raising our taxes in any crazy manner, only when it's absolutely necessary. But that hopefully answers your question on the revenue piece of it.
It's get ahead of the revenue thing. That's the thing. It's get ahead of it when the zoning piece
Check.
allows the developer
It does.
to make a move to do what he needs to do. If he builds a housing development in 2 years, boom, he puts his houses up. Where are the schools? Where are the roads?
So here's how we can pay for it. So it's about being creative. There are other economic models that will allow us to actually produce revenue that doesn't raise taxes. And so that means like looking at P3 models. We have this public-private partnership model that exists in other parts of the country, but it could be a potential revenue stream or revenue source that can help us meet and increase the speed in which we build the infrastructure, schools, things like that, police stations if we need them, fire stations if you need them. So there are creative methods that will allow us to do that. And I think the next administration will probably be forced with dealing with that creative solution to solve some of these funding challenges, because we have the Cohen Commission with what's the state level economic for the schools. Blueprint. The blueprint forces the counties to, they actually create instances where we have to generate more revenue for the school system. So there are going to be some creative things that we have to do as a county because that is a mandate on it. That's not, we can't choose not to follow that. We have to meet those certain standards. And so you will find the council figuring out ways to fund that, because the model actually takes some revenue from the county to some extent because of the student population that we serve. So in order to maintain that maintenance of effort, the old maintenance of effort, we'll certainly have to find revenue streams to fill those gaps that exist throughout the county to sort of flush up that funding stream that used to be there. So any other questions about, yes ma'am?
So back to Bill 7524, because I think it's one of the most critical pieces
Yes.
of legislation.
It's the alligator closest to the boat.
Absolutely, everybody's boat. And
Yes.
I'd like to rename it the Authoritarian Planning Decision Act.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter which party's in favor, which party's in office.
Yes.
It will do damage.
Mm-hmm.
And, we got Arundel Mills
Yes.
under a Republican administration
Yes.
where nobody knew anything about it, and there were plans all around his office.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it happened. So we need to be very diligent, vigilant, and make sure that someone attends the hearing on the 16th.
Yes.
Is that at night?
It is at 7 p.m. So I would encourage you to
Yeah.
write email all the council members to let them know how you feel about it, as well as if you can come and testify. There is power in numbers.
So how do we know how to comment if we can't go there?
So if you email me, but if you go online to the county council website, it actually is an instruction there. If you want to comment on legislation, it is a link that will literally take you to producing that those remarks for the council members.
Where's the meeting at?
It's at the Arundel Center in Annapolis. So that's the county seat. We meet there on the first and third Monday of each month. And then the second Tuesday of each month is when we actually have work sessions in the morning where we discuss these pieces of legislation. But this next Monday will be a council meeting where we vote on this bill. This bill expires, I think it expires on December 19th or 20th. 20th. So 20th. So it either dies on, it's voted down on Monday, or it's voted up. We'll see. You will know how I vote. So I don't want there to be any surprises. But that's how I feel about that bill. Yes, sir.
So is there any way we can influence development where they can't develop until the infrastructure is in place?
So, who said the 6 years? It's funny you mentioned that. So it's interesting. There was I think a federal lawsuit at some point back in the day. The Supreme Court weighed on this. Counties can't hold land from being developable forever, right? Because you're essentially depriving whoever that landowner is of their property rights and values and ability to build on it. So there was a 6-year process where the counties have 6 years to build infrastructure to meet that need. Zoning, though, however, is one of those capabilities that allow you to delay it as much as, because you're doing something, you're making a change. So I'm not proposing that the entire county down zones everywhere. That's not what I'm saying. But some communities deserve to be protected. Some communities are already built up, and you don't need to have additional building in those communities. This is one of those communities that's already built up. Every street is pretty much, it has an identity, and you all want to protect that identity. I am with you on protecting that identity. And so if zoning is zoned in a way where it becomes economically unfeasible for developers to build on it, they won't build on it. So if you got R1 land, or certainly at a minimum R5, and they only got 1 acre, and they have these other conditions that they have to meet, and now it's only 4 houses because some of the setbacks reduce that amount, it makes it unfeasible for them to build on it, so they won't build on it. The county can also buy land. There is open space money that we have in the county that we can buy, so that we can preserve it either in park space or open space. And so we're always looking for parcels that make sense as a community identity to purchase that land from a county perspective. So if you have land that you think might be good for the county to purchase, it looks like we got every hands up here now. We could.
What are they doing up here at the end of Andover Road where they took down the houses and everything? Are they going to build?
Which?
Up here at the end of Andover Road and Nursery.
Oh, well, so.
Yeah, that corner. They took those houses down.
Yeah, I don't know. I know there was.
Is Patel building there? Or?
So his property was on the church side of that portion.
Two houses down. They're gone. They took them out.
Yeah, so he's been trying to build there for what? A while. It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while. And well, yeah, you do have some of that with BWI, the airport. So there are some conditions that, but I'm not 100%. If it's on the right, it's on the right or the left. As I'm going to a nurse. Oh, okay. I have to look at that again and check.
I think the conversation here is the importance of this bill, and it's happening Monday night.
Monday night.
I'd like to ask the president, like we do in my Democratic club, if she would approach Hubert's bus service for those people that might want to pay $5 and see if our kitty will handle to go down in numbers to represent you and be behind you,
yes,
verbally and physically, if our treasurer can afford it. And
how much does a bus cost?
I don't know. We'll have to look into Hubert's.
Can you see? Because I'll help you fund it, and you ain't got to worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, we do it all the time in 32.
Yeah, if you can do that. But the reason, and like I said, I am not trying to impact the administration.
Parking down here must be horrendous.
Well, there's a garage across the street.
Right, like at night. We're all not 21, so it'd be nice to go down like we do with a shuttle bus.
You look 26 to me. I don't know.
Yeah, right. So I'd like to ask the association if they will be open for mind that to see if we can have numbers supporting you.
Yeah. We can definitely talk about it. I want to think it through a little bit, but I think that sounds like, depending on, I don't know how much things cost.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll I guess talk it over and then definitely email the membership.
Are all you aware of 7524? Who's not aware of it? Okay. It's a mixed-use bill. It's a mixed-use piece of legislation that expands the number of mixed-use categories from 4 to 5. It adds some additional densities to those mixed-use categories. But it also allows the zoning officer to identify land that was discussed as potential mixed use in the plan. So now when it comes to the plan, I'm making sure every verbiage in there is like mixed use. I'm like going through that with a fine tooth comb, because at the end of the day, I want us, when I say us, the council member, certainly, for that district to have a voice in that discussion. And so,
Because at this point, he had the stroke of the pen. He can just designate it, pick from one of the 5, and
right, the administration could do that. It could be urban, it could be mixed use urban, mixed use suburban, mixed use transit, mixed use, and there's two other ones. Village.
Yeah. Hang on. But yeah, it just leads to transit, and employment, commercial, residential, and village.
So can I ask, and this is, look, if you're for it, I'm not mad at you. We just have a different opinion. Who's for 7524 in here? Please read it. Don't like trust my opinion on it. Okay. Well,
There's a link for the bill. What? There is a link for the bill. 7524. If you go into the December Monitor, under the president's message, there is a link. It says residents should be aware of Bill 7524. It is underlined. Anytime you see that underlined, that is a link. If you click on the link, it'll take you right to the bill. It's a House bill. Okay, I'm just telling you, it is in there. That's not working.
It's okay. It's okay.
I'm retired. I'll go to Hubert's tomorrow.
Yeah.
And find out a minibus for 12 people, or whatever, and come back to a president and see if anything is reasonable money wise. And Jonathan or the president, how do we find out who might be interested?
Yeah. As I said, I just don't. If you all want me to do a different thing, let me know. But as of now, I'm not necessarily in favor of 7524. So, simply because if it passes, the administration is the one, and they're not mean people. They're not trying to build Baltimore City here. That's not what they're trying to do. However, I 100% will always believe the council member you selected should have a voice in the decision and whether or not is designated as one of these things. I just fundamentally believe that. That's why I'm not necessarily supportive of the bill. It just
There should be another phase in there that allows the community to know more about what's happening, if that's the decision someone's going to make.
So we did amend it so that there is a sector plan that has to be developed. The sector plan is the county's way of. It was an amendment that we passed last week, and it requires the county to go to the community to provide input, and then the sector plan takes that input, and that input is used in the decision on what designation it ultimately becomes by the planning officer. However, in my mind, input is different from a decision point. As a council member, on this bill 75, I can either vote. When we pass a bill, the county executive has a number of options. He could vote, he could sign it, he could veto it, he could not sign it. But he has a choice in the process. When this bill passed, when it comes to designating these lands, I no longer have a choice in the process, even if the sector plan is created. That's just recommendation. When I was 10, my mom recommended I'd go to the store and we bought clothes and she put it on layaway. Sometimes I never got those clothes. That was just a recommendation. And so I don't want the layaway plan when it comes to housing and when it comes to mixed use developments. I want to be involved, not me. Any person you elect to sit in this position should carry your wishes to their decisions, because then you get to hold them accountable. I want to be held accountable. If I choose mixed use urban, knowing you don't like that, there's a consequence for me during elections. But if I vote for this bill and it's designated mixed use development and or one of those categories, I didn't make that decision. I mean, I hope you don't, but hope you don't hold me accountable. Maybe the county executive account, but he's term limited. He can't run again. So some future administrator or future county executive will make the determination on what those designations are. And for me, That's a risk that I'm not necessarily sure I'm comfortable with when it comes to making sure your wishes as a community are upheld, especially because at least 2 of them, maybe 3, are right around here. They're right. I don't know if you have the list of, you know what? I have it here somewhere. And of the properties that are mixed use in the plan for Region 2 and Region 5, there are 6 or 11 that are currently in law. 6 of those are in District 1. 3 or 2 are right around Linthicum, just so you're aware. So that's partially why I'm taking such a hard stand on this. Yes. It is.
Where the shopping center is?
Oh yes, that's one of them. Yeah, that's because in the plan that actually has as future potential mixed use development. Yes, that's one of them.
So this would be the first step to accomplishing that?
This will be the first step in. They can still build a mixed use via legislation at some point down the road, but at that point we are involved. But in this instance, the administrator with the planning officer or planning and zoning officer would be the ones that actually designated.
Now, what about the land that's being sold on Maritime and Hammond's Ferry, across from Crestwood?
I have to follow back up. I have to follow back up on it.
It hasn't sold yet. It's pending.
Is it? Let me.
Where's that?
Hammond's Ferry, across from where the entrance for Maritime Institute, the land on both sides of Maritime Boulevard there, or whatever it is, Maritime Lane.
Is that part of West Nursery? Is that the same district as West Nursery?
It's Hammond's Ferry Road, across from Crestwood. It's, well, five is pending.
Yeah, when you turn into 8.
Yeah, 5 is pending right now.
75. Okay, here
Any more
is-
questions?
All right, so here they are. So Concord Circle is in law already a mixed-use development. That's right down the street here, Concord Circle. They got some apartments there now, but that area is in a mixed-use zone. So that's one of them. Yes. Well, no. So no. It was designated as a mixed use. That's not part of the overlay. It's in the past.
Okay.
Yeah. Then you have, I want to say this Ridge View or Ridge mixed use area. That's by it's north of the BWI car rental place. So I guess on the other side of. So go north by the MDOT. Think of where MDOT is, the Maryland Department of Transportation. They have that building over there. Some of y'all familiar with that location? So I think that's over in that area. The other ones that are in District 1 are Pride, which is on 175, huge mixed use area. These are the ones that are already, because of Region 2 and the other region that we passed earlier this year, because we put in the plan that there's a potential mixed use. At the time, I didn't even know they were working on Bill 524. And I wish they had these conversations with me certainly last year. I don't think it was intentional. The cards have just fallen out the way they have. They have Arundel Preserve is another one, National Business Park, Watershed Arundel, that's off of 198, Concord Circle, Telegraph Road at 100, that's Buckingham Mixed Use Development, Ridge Mixed Use, Wall Chapel Town Center, Village at Wall Chapel South, and Veterans Highway at Benfield. All of those are today in law mixed use areas, right? So when the bill passed, they recommended what they have for those, because they already existed, what they will be if the bill passed with the future. Now let me tell you the ones that if with Region 1 and the other regions that have not been passed yet, these are those. The other ones are that if Region 2 passes, Laurel Park, has a TOD, Laurel, Maryland 198 corridor, Annapolis Junction, Jessup Park Mark Station, Jessup, Maryland 175 corridor, Dorsey Mark Station, Region 4 sites, Arundel Village, Baydale, Cape St. Clair, Rivera Beach, Mountain Road Village Center, Early Heights Village Center, Benfield Village Center, Severna Park Marketplace, and Veterans Highway at Benfield Road. So those are the other ones that are in region plans that are, I'm sorry, these are the ones that already exist today. It was the other way around. So these are the ones that, because of Region 2 and Region 4, we passed those early this year. Those exist now. And then the ones I mentioned to you with Region 1 bills, they are the potential new ones if the bill passes, 7524 passes. I'm sorry, if comp rezoning, not 7524, if comprehensive rezoning in your Region 1 plan pass, those are the, let me bring that back up. Yeah, Region 1 currently, or if we pass these bill with Region 1 and it's the Parkside, it's the other one. So yes, it's a total of 25. 11 of them are in District 1 of the 25. So that's why I have heartburn about leaving that decision to an administrator and not it being a political decision so that you all can have your voice heard and you can hold someone accountable when that decision is made.
Is there a last question right here, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Hopefully you can clear something up for me. I'm concerned about, they want to put all these developments in, for instance, like they did up there by 648, the newest thing right next to the Beltway. And there's already road problems there.
Yes.
Why was the road not fixed first? When I called at least 5 people, and this wasn't the person I talked to. It wasn't their area, but they said it was their understanding that it was up to the developer to do something about the roads per zoning's criteria. So why can't it be that the roads are planned out and done first and then the development?
So you're not necessarily wrong. State Highway did approve, I think it's what, like 10 houses in that back there off of, it's, how many is it over there? Is it 16? I know it's not like hundreds is what it's, but they did, and it's right along the Beltway right there, right? And that, so I remember when in 22 or 21, when those were being considered, I actually showed up for the community who was opposed to it. Obviously, at that point, it had already been approved. Not that I was opposed to the housing, I was opposed to the infrastructure, because you literally come at that intersection at a T before, and now you have this weird sort of, then you go in the community sort of dynamic there. But again, zoning allowed that to happen from 2009, 2010, when comp rezoning took place in that area. But I think there could have been, I'm not 100% sure what could have stopped it back then, because I wasn't part of the administration or on the council at that point. But I do know Region 1, and I'm going to stump my foot on that, comp rezoning is the foundation of any and everything that could potentially happen in an area. And if you are not involved in that process, it can lead to decisions 10 years from now about developments or projects that could be built on that property. So please stay alert, stay aware, and be involved in that process.
Well, what she's saying, usually the developers do have to put the roads in to get to that main road.
So I think there was some configuration of the intersection. It's not ideal though. It's a weird intersection, and so but it was approved by State Highway, and the county approved it as well. So.
Do we have any say in that part of it?
So I think, yeah, I think it's limited in, because they use a lot of the what's the best practices. They have these. I'm not a what do you call that, civil engineer. Yeah, and so I think the art is whoever the next county executive is, for example, can put together a work group to talk about what are the types of intersections. Here's one thing Howard County did do well. Not saying they do bad things. that I'm actually in to them about is their communities were planned like 40 years ago. 40, 50 years ago, they had, hey, when this population reached this number, we're going to do this development at this location. So they planned out, like Columbia was a planned city. It wasn't just haphazardly put together. It was planned, the entire thing. Yes. So we need to get back to not these piecemeal approaches to development. It needs to be more comprehensive and intentional. Like as far as where it's going to be at, what infrastructure is going to lead into it. I know we have APF standards, adequate public facility guidelines, but there are so many exceptions that could be waived to make sure those things go through, that it just doesn't make sense. For me, I think we should work as a county, certainly, to say, well, what is Anne Arundel County? Like, who are we? She said a mess. Well, hopefully we're not a mess in 5 and 10 and 15 years. Hopefully we are something that you all are proud of. And you're not upset about simple projects that are being implemented because we planned communities that have an infrastructure that leads to it. And it's not, 20 houses aren't put on a 2-acre parcel behind a community that was already built abutting 695. I'm sorry, you're getting me all, I'm ready to do push-ups. So the Marine in me.
Councilman, one, just going back to the transit-oriented.
The TOD? Yep.
Yeah. So my understanding is that the planned land use for the commercial area is kind of what's up for change within the Region 1 plan. So what I'm wondering is, so the planned land use would have to change to mixed use in order for the zoning to be changed to mixed use in the future.
That's why the plan, the language in there, I'm going back to modify.
But the planned land use is up for like change now.
Correct.
Like there's a decision point for the planned land use. Now, do you vote on that?
Yes.
And
when it comes to us next month or
and is
in
that
February.
another thing that just like the corner of Camp Mead and what is it, Andover? That you have kind of,
I have a vote in that, yes.
Now, is it the same thing though, where I know there's sort of this reciprocity idea that if you don't want something to happen in your district, then it doesn't happen because your colleagues kind of.
So one of the things you've noticed, if you haven't paid attention over the last year when we've been doing these, I have been very intentional with working with my colleagues in their district. I know District 1, and in my mind, better than another council member who represents District 2 or 3 or 5. And so I would hope that they would trust that I have put all of my heart, which that's why I'm doing all these Zoom meetings and subsequent meetings, so I can really understand what each community in District 1 wants for their community. And so I have intentionally stayed the course with there were a couple times it bit me. And I was certainly in a very emotional place at that point, but I always thought the right thing to do was to stay the course, stay that standard. So I would envision that my colleagues will support my decisions because I have supported their decisions in their district. I'm not saying that's the 100% foolproof way of solving all of our problems, but I am hopeful that it is foolproof in protecting my desire to make sure your wishes are incorporated into District 1.
So,
I will.
So does that, if the planned land use were not changed to mixed use for the commercial area, then that doesn't pull it into the whole
Correct.
Zoning change. Then
Yes.
the zoning can't be
Yes.
changed later down
Correct.
the road. Have you, do you support the change in the planned land?
That's what I said. I'm going line by line. The problem is it hasn't come to us yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I only have a bite at the apple once the administration is done with the plan, as well as the zoning layer that goes with that plan. It's basically two parallel bills. So the plan, when it comes to me, I have every intention of modifying verbiage in the plan.
And that would that just put an end to the whole development?
It could, yes.
Of the
well,
commercial
at least for the
area?
next 10 years, yes. For the next, during this phase of comp rezoning.
Okay.
10 years from now, it's different conversation. Now it's open back up. The door is opened up again.
Okay.
The same thing happened back in July from Hampton Road to 100, the airport redeveloped back there.
Mm-hmm.
And you said things go good when you support numbers. Pasadena supported this very well down in Annapolis, and that was shot down at that big meeting.
Check.
But that was a huge chunk of land. To
Okay.
change the subject a little bit about the shortness of the individuals from North County Police Station not attending because of shortness of personnel and staffing. You mentioned a few months back there was incentivized to bring on new officers in a
Yes.
monetary amount.
Yes.
I talked to three first responders that live across the Bay Bridge that come over, and I talked about that, and I mentioned $40,000, and one of them said,
It's
no,
70. Starting salary is 70.
it's $70,000 extra to sign on.
No, it's starting salary for police officers is 70,000.
Yeah, right, but the incentive bonus.
Oh, it fluctuates, but I think 20.
Well, he
think they
said
have-
10.
Well, they're
Yeah, he said 10,
yeah.
but what I said to him was, how do you feel about if our county executive now and going forward will put in his budget that 2 years rent-free of an apartment in District 1, 2, 3, and 4 for an officer? 2 years just rent-free. They pay the utilities. Would that bring more people from surrounding counties in? Young people. And he says yes, because now it's mostly lateral from other counties coming in with years of experience, lower pay elsewhere. So he said that would really bring up the young people. So I wonder if you would think about supporting that going forward with a county.
So it depends, because I mean, just as public safety, teachers, I am like they don't earn a lot of money at all, and so I still think both of those groups, I equally want to make sure they are capable of being and having a quality of life here in Anne Arundel County. But just to add a few things, over the last year we've done starting salaries at 70,000 for public safety for police officers. We've removed the provision so that if we have retirees who retired from the police department, or any retirees in general, one of the bills I put in a few months ago, or this summer, that we passed, if you are a retiree and you come work for the county, in the past, they used to take $1 for every $2 you earned. That is now gone. So now we can, if you are retired from Rex and Parks or whatever, and you want to go work as a police officer, or we had a police recruit, a sheriff recruit, who just went through the sheriff academy. He was 60 years old. Yeah, let's go. Come on. We're recruiting you. No, I'm just asking. Yeah. No, I know. I'm just talking about I'm just going through the list of incentives that we've done to enhance policing. So we took that away. We also just passed a bill that I certainly co-sponsored, because that was my next bill. And that's fine. It allowed 5 years worth of buyback, so we can get more laterals from other departments for them to buy back their pension years. So if they had already served 5 years in Baltimore County, they can come here, buy those 5 years back, and it's like they were here for 5 years as well. And so that was a holdup in the past, because usually when you start policing in a jurisdiction and you're there 5-6 years, you're kind of like, when I hit my 10-year mark in the Marines, I was like, well, it's a life for me. I mean, at that point, I only had 10 more to go to get to 20. So I did. Now I'm at 27. I don't know what I'm smoking. Crack, probably. But so we tried to make sure. That was on the mic, wasn't it? And I don't, for the record, I don't smoke crack. I just wanted you all to know that. It's a joke. And the 5 years was or at least buying back time in general, was a hindrance for police officers from other jurisdictions coming here. So now we've waived that. You also probably don't know this. Most apartment complexes, they actually give reduced rents to police officers. They will 100% give them, if your rent is in Lake Village, for example, or you name a apartment complex, almost all of them that I'm aware of will probably force that, because they want the police car presence in their community complex. So most police officers who are staying here are only paying half rent on their apartment.
That's what they were saying. If the county would pick up the other half, that would bring more from Queen Anne's County and everywhere else, young people.
Yeah, I get it. There was so again, but this goes back to that that $2.3 billion budget, you know, I mean, if you want us to raise, because if we reduce it on that end, we got to take it from somewhere else. And so it's basically a shell game. That 80 million on average that we get, half of that goes to the school system off the bat. So now you're left for 40 million, right? That 40 million, if you look at cost of inflation, if you factor that in on what you did last year, now probably 10, 15 million of that is going just to inflationary values on salaries. We ain't even talking about new positions, just on salaries across the board. For every, so now you're left with, I don't know, $30 million. So you really, of that next year in our budget, when we're probably going to be somewhere near $2.4 billion, is really only like $30 million that we're really putting our fingerprint on. The rest is mandatory. We have to pay the inflationary costs. We have to give half of that to the school system because of, you know, maintenance of effort and blueprint and all these other things. And so when you think of it, the council, we're looking at $30 million. How do you spread that amongst new things that we should be incorporating? Police, one of the ways, we have 809 positions in the police department. Howard has 700. They have half our population and damn near the same amount of police officers. It's crazy. You know how many high schools they have? 13. You know how many we have? 13. And they have half our student population. We have 85,000. They have 40,000. So there is certainly economics or data that supports when a school has a lower population, the students do well because the class sizes are lower. That's a fact, right? So you know, people compare us to these jurisdictions like Howard. Well, there's a reason they're doing well because they have smaller class sizes from the education side of the house. Not that we're doing poorly, but for what we do get from the taxpayer, we're doing as big of a job as we could do with the resources that we do have. And so on the police piece, we should be at 1,200. In my mind, we should have 1,200 police officers in Anne Arundel County. Since 1995, we are, in fact, from 80 to 2000, that's when Anne Arundel County did the most construction. Most of your schools were built, or developments were built in this county, and that's 75 to 90. In that 25-year period, the state was giving more school construction dollars at that time. So you had this splurge in construction that happened throughout Anne Arundel County. One of the things that has impacted us is the cost of things are way more than they used to be, obviously, back in the day. And so we got to find a way to control the cost in Anne Arundel County so that our dollars go further when it comes to capital programs. So you'll see legislation, certainly for me, that drives the county to say, hey, to put their hand up in the face of all these RFPs that they put out. When they come back, we built when I say we, I will take ownership of it because we passed the budget. A few years ago, we built at Meade High School a concession stand. Now in here, how many of you know how much what would you think a concession stand costs?
$94,000. But I asked you, why didn't they put in a grant for this casino money?
Who put in the grant for the casino?
If you're saying the county, put
Grant money, the casino money is our money.
Where did the money come from? That's what I'm saying.
They did. So the concession stand, the bleachers, the piano lab, all of those things receive funding from the casino for the construction of it.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, but it's still the same product. Like ultimately, oh yeah. But I'm not worried about. My issue isn't where the money came from. My issue was when you said when I asked you how much should the concession stand cost. What did you say?
I said 90.
We spent almost close to $1 million to build that. The county. Yeah. Yes. I'm not joking. And so when you look at school construction costs, getting the county and IAP, it isn't just the county fault. What is the IEP? Whatever the state IEP. Construction costs is insanely high for capital programs here in the county. Swim center. We were in the process of bidding or trying to propose a location for the swim center. The Province Park was where the county wanted to. Every community association around Province Park said, we don't want to give up our park for the swim center. So what did I do? I'm a Marine. I took my orders. We didn't do it at Province Park. I petitioned against the administration, said, no, we shouldn't build it here. And I rallied support from the council to make sure it wasn't going to be there. But the other thing that I wasn't going to do was, you know how much the swimming pool was going to cost? Like $60 million for a 50,000 square feet box. in my mind, it's a box with a hole in the ground, right? It shouldn't, I know it's more complicated than that, but it shouldn't cost $60 million for a pool, for a swimming pool, swim center. $60 million. So, $190 million. High school, $190 million. 14 years ago, we built one, Severna Park cost us like 130 somewhere, which is still a lot, but now a similar size high school is $70 million more. So controlling costs on capital programs is going to save us. If we can find a way to do that and push back, that's going to save us a lot of money. You know why? Because we bond against those. Just like you take out a bond or a loan from your bank to pay your mortgage, you pay it with your operational funds. Your check pays the mortgage. So our funding that we get from the taxpayer pays the bond debt on those bonds. And so if we lower it, we're going to save money. My goal is to reduce it by 10% so we can save at least $100 million.
I agree. Everything you said, the swim center, they deserve everything.
Oh, yeah.
High schools, they
Oh, yeah.
deserve everything. But I get tired of hearing that we're not coming to the meetings to talk about, what's happening at Hammond's Lane. And then we're doing away with the January meeting because of short of staffing. And I'm tired of hearing about the young lady's daughter sexually assaulted, pulled in, had to take the report over the phone.
Yes.
Why, Pete, why are our numbers up to where we're not in a zero status? Why is that?
So I will hear on the policing piece of it, on the safety piece, right, which I'm a big fan of, right? If I can go get my Marine buddies, we will stand guard on frickin' Hammond's Highway all day long, right? Excuse the frickin', I didn't mean to say that. She looked at me weird. I'm like, I'm trying not to cuss. So when it comes to that's why I said we got to get those numbers up to 1,200. However, it is a challenge recruiting humans to do policing. It's a challenge, right? And so because policing is not a career field that America as a whole is rushing into. And so not just us, other jurisdictions are also having similar recruiting problems with policing. So knowing and understanding that, which is why we did all those provisions to try to incentivize them to coming over, which is why I'm okay with investing in technology. That's why I've said about these police cameras. We just opened up the Arctic, which just it's in the process of being stood up, real-time information center. It is a facility that ultimately will be ran 24/7. It has a lot of displays in there with analysts who are at the desk looking at these screens. What I have asked them to do was also incorporate AI, because if they're getting thousands of feeds from these strip malls, which have agreed to have their feed pushed into the Arctic facility, HOAs have the ability to have their feeds for their public-facing cameras pushed into the Arctic. And so in my mind, the technology the AI specifically, at least with that piece, will be able to help them triage what is normal behavior to bring that screen forward so an analyst can see it. And then a human will say, wow, it's 2 a.m. Why is that person going between parked cars? Hey, dispatch, can you send a vehicle over there? Now we're proactive. Right now, my car, my mom and my daughter's car, I don't know if you're aware, was just vandalized in my community. There were 16 vehicles that were broken into. Our windows were smashed. So my mom's driver's side window and my daughter's passenger side window were both smashed. They didn't even take anything, but it cost me $500 to replace the windows. And so, can I borrow $500? I just replaced them, but I was angry. I was pissed. And so I know if I'm pissed, you all are pissed when people are coming into your community, vandalizing things or assaulting individuals. So I want to find a way to remediate that. Part of that is, in my mind, using the technology to help with that. And so that's the only solution in my mind that can provide real effects right away, because the human piece of it is a much more long-term solution.
I agree. Everything you're saying is just George is interested in boots on the ground.
I want boots on the ground.
I want to see that on a quarter tower. I want to see it anywhere, something like that. I just need 4 more officers, somebody in Annapolis to get his ear.
Yeah.
Come up with some extra money, and get these young kids.
Check.
Pete, that's all I'm asking.
I hear you. I hear. Yes, sir.
So I get staffing issues with the policing. So we definitely, if that's the way it's going to continue, we are going to have to go with more technology based, no matter how we feel about it. If we're going to, it's going to take the place of police if we can't get police, no matter whether we like it or don't like it. Is there a plan right now to expand the speed cameras
Yes.
in the county? Can you expand on that for us?
So I will 100% say this. I am not necessarily a fan of speed cameras, but there's a caveat because I've seen jurisdictions use the county, and I have said in District 1, if a community, I will not push it on a community unless a community comes to me and say, we want one. If you come to me and say, as Jessup, because they've come to me and said they want one, as Linthicum and say, you want one, then I will go to the police and say, well, they want one, I'm behind it. If you don't come to me as a community, I'm not going to push it for that community. I'm just being straight honest with you.
I know it's not technically a school zone. B&A Boulevard, near North County, and I teach there.
Yeah.
I went there. It's a racetrack.
So
it is It is a racetrack. Morning, noon, and night. B&A Boulevard, outside of North County. So if you leave the Burwood Shopping Center and you head south towards Christos, towards North County, it is a racetrack. Morning,
okay, so
noon,
that's one. Can you
and
email me
night.
that location?
I will, Pete. Yes.
And we'll put that on. And, yeah. I'm glad he mentioned North County High School. I had a meeting a month ago, or maybe a month and a half ago, and I want you to know that it was with DPW because I am investigating and I have potentially here in the next 2 years a funding source that can help build a second exit out of North County Circle. I am 100% pushing that. Unless you tell me no, that school circle is horrible for any student or parent who has to go there during school hours or certainly as they exit or start. And I think we have identified a path. No, it's if you're, what's the word that I had connected to? Yeah, it would come out. Yes. Yes, it would be like a bridge that connects to that intersection. Is that Furnace Branch right there on the backside? Yes, the Furnace Branch. No. Furnace Branch. So think of where if you're driving down adjacent to the football field or the stadium, down that road, and you keep going north.
That's perfect because they alternate the start times, pickup
Yes.
times, and talking to Mark about the red light.
Yes.
Ambulance and fire, that worked out great. But if you're talking about a second egress,
I want a second egress.
man, that's big time.
Yes.
Big time.
That's what I want. And so that's why I met with DPW. I mentioned it to the B&A, the speed camera, because you all wanted it. Okay. I don't want you to be mad at me because data shows that half of the recipients who will get the ticket are the residents. So some of you all may get a speed ticket. I just don't want you to be mad at me.
If I'm flying that fast,
You deserve it.
And I told the district police before, because they had told us it's getting paid, especially the stop signs around here. They go, well, it's you guys. Hey, if it's us, light us up.
Check.
Okay, because it is us, and it's not. Everyone wants to blame airport traffic. It's not.
It's not.
It's us. If we're doing it, light us up because that's the only way that's going to change the behavior. The other thing I want to mention with the speed camera on B&A outside of North County. The reason I think that's a priority, there are no sidewalks.
Check.
There is no safe place for those kids going to or from North County, and there's a ton of them that walk.
Yeah.
By necessity, and they walk a good distance.
Yes.
There is no safe place for them, and they are at danger every time they're walking up and down that shoulder.
Yeah, send me that. We'll give it to police chief.
If I could, real quick,
Yes,
just so it's not unanimous, not everybody's in favor of these speed cameras right there on B&A. So just so you know.
Listen, I just don't want you all mad at me. That's all. If you as a family have decided. Yes.
Change the time at night, all the way up to Burwood, and they go under the bridge, and they live down in the apartments there.
Check.
Cool, but there's no sidewalks at all.
Yeah.
So those two things.
Speed bumps don't change behavior. Getting hit in the checkbook.
Yes. Yes, it does.
One would be Canton Road. If they want to do a survey on that part of that,
I appreciate that.
Okay.
It's another school, top of the hill with the fire department there. You have the light rail entrance there.
And I'll put in a bill.
You should do a survey and check those and check the speeds on that.
And I'm going to make sure I'll put in legislation that whatever revenue is generated by the speed camera is used 100% to hire more police officers. Oh, great. 100%, not to go do anything else other than to hire more humans, police officers. I think, I don't know. We have, I think they're like 50 or 75 or. Yeah.
We have to be out of here by 9. It's 2:15. Okay, you're there that.
Yeah.
Just an FYI.
And in DC, if you don't do it in 30 days, they double it. Almost.
My husband said he was coming this way, someone's going 45, and he saw the light flash on him.
Yeah. I went to church after I got that one from DC. I was like, Jesus, what are you doing?
Are there any other questions for the councilman since we just have 10 minutes left?
Yes. If you send me an email, yes. Yes.
Are there
100%.
Any other questions for the congressman since there's just 10 minutes left?
Councilman.
Can I
unless you want to call me county executive, but I'll whatever you want.
Can I grab this just for half a second here?
Yes.
Community announcement, since we just have 10 minutes left. Oh, rather, let's go ahead and let this gentleman speak first. Go right ahead.
Thank you. I know there's only 10 minutes left, and he stole all the time, but that's okay. I mean, a lot of good information, very important. So for those that don't know me, Delegate Mike Rogers, I'm your state delegate, one of your state delegates for this area. Most of you probably know that we start session on January 8th, 90 consecutive days. I anticipate it's going to be a very interesting session. I anticipate we're going to have a lot of conversations about the structural deficit and how that's going to work. So happy to try to answer any questions that I can, but you'll see me again. Typically don't make it as much during session to the meetings, but certainly we'll try to get here. And that's it. I'll shut up and answer any questions anyone may have. I can. Thank you.
Do y'all have a session thing where y'all bring the community together for District 32?
We do. So we do have District Night, District 32 night, and it's open to everyone in District 32. And I will get you that date. I'm hearing February 18, 14, 16 in that window, which is, close to the halfway point. So that way we can sort of say, and typically what we do is we say, these are the things that we're sponsoring, and we take, questions from the audience about things that are relevant and important to you. But by that time, we pretty much have all of us, myself, Delegate Chang, Delegate Bartlett, Senator Beidel, have what the legislation that we're going to be sponsoring. And in some cases, we actually know sort of where it is in the pipeline and what the prospects are. And so those are the kinds of things. And then you get a free meal. We feed you. So, once you hire that bus to get down there, we'll provide you free food. Yep. There you go. So, and I think this year, this will be the first year in several since COVID where we're actually going to try to have it in the House of Delegates building. So there you go.
I'm going to hand the microphone back over to the president, Kara. Before I do, very quickly, community announcement. There are certain hidden figures in history, and this gentleman is one of them. His name is James Apostle Fields. He was a freedom seeker, union spy, attorney, politician, and member of Hampton University's first class. There'll be a documentary on January 11th, being over there at John Wesley United Methodist Church. If you're interested, track me down after. I'll give you the details on that. I'm going to hand this back over to the president.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Councilman, and thanks to all of you for your wonderful questions and the conversation. It's actually just I'll speak louder. It's just for the
online audience.
The online thingy. So anyway, any last questions or comments from the membership? Just one note, our January, what's the date? The meeting for our January meeting. What's the date for that? 8th, okay. Our January 8th speaker will be Bob Mosier, correct?
I believe so, yeah. He's gonna update us on, whatever he needs to update us on the county schools.
The school system related
How the
update.
redistricting kind of played out and how that's going and anything else that he needs to talk to us about. So, yes.
Okay. All right. So please join us. Till then, happy holidays, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.